Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Sylvia Rivera. I'm co-founder of Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, which is now Street Transgender Action Revolutionaries. And my co-founder was Marsha P. Johnson.
What about the issues of that? There's a lot of organizations that have included T in their bill, like lesbian, gay, bi, and trans. Is there real inclusiveness, or is it or just a smokescreen? How do you feel about that?
No, that's the bottom line. It's a big smoke screen. This movement has become so capitalist. It is a capitalist movement. I see this movement becoming a straight gay movement that only believes in that almighty dollar. Now, what kind of logic is this? I don't understand. We do not owe the straight community a damn thing, so why should we be giving them our money? I feel highly offended. So, what is the purpose of us? Not us, because this is no longer my pride. I gave them their pride, but they have not given me mine. But what is the purpose of them celebrating their pride and giving straight people who still really don't accept the community, the gay and lesbian community, for what they are, but they want that almighty dollar of ours?
Sis ate with that one. She ate. She ate and left no crumbs. Hi, good to see you. Welcome to the Jaybe show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. So good to see all of you. Come on in, have a seat. If you guys haven't grabbed a snack, go ahead and grab it now because I'm going to be coming to you in a second. But I just wanted to let you guys know, come on in. By the way, happy Pride Month, everybody. Yes, happy Pride to every single person who is LGBTQIANOPRSTLNE. Hello, so good to see all of you here today on the Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. Just to let you guys know, the JB show is every single Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also catch me on my channel, as well as the JB Font channel. You guys can catch me on there on Tuesdays at 2, along with readings throughout the week. So much thank you to everybody for coming in and tuning in today. Also, thank you to everybody for tuning in for the Rumble launch yesterday. I wasn't able to come in yesterday. I had different prior plans, but it's so good to see that there was such a huge turnout from all of you. So thank you so very much. Just a couple of things to go over first before I actually start getting into much of what I wanted to get into today. Just to let you guys know, if you guys would like to, please also get your notifications straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So go to Revolutionary Blackout on Substack. You can just find us there, and you can also get email notifications for us from Substack as well. Thank you to all the patrons on Patreon and also members. Yes, we have $3.99 memberships here on this channel as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, as well as supporting the channel, because without you guys, we would not be able to do the things that we'll be able to do. Also, thank you so much to everyone who has donated so far, but we also do fundraisers for our graphics designer. Her name is Erin, and she does an amazing job with her graphics. And so if you guys would like to, you guys can go to Venmo at Revolutionary Blackout or Cash App Mutual Aid Forever, so that you guys can donate for Erin so that we can make sure that she is paid the wage that she wants to be paid. So thank you so very much for that. Before I get into saying hello to everybody in the chat, one of the things I wanted to address is that well over a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I went to say goodbye to my grandmother. It was tough because it was kind of sudden, you know. I mean, she was living on her own and everything. And so, with that being said, with the planning for the trip, it was a very short trip because I couldn't afford to go any longer. It was really left Friday, mourn her Saturday, and then spend a little time with family in the Sunday morning, and then flew back Sunday evening. That was it. And so it was tough because there were some things that we were planning on doing as a family that we wanted to do. It's just circumstances and capitalism. We couldn't afford to do it, and we wanted to do it this year, but we just couldn't do it, And so, it came as a bitter shock that she passed. And so for people like myself and, my mom and my brothers and nieces and nephews and aunts and uncles, it was just a huge loss. So I'm still getting over that. I've been feeling mentally exhausted lately. So, thank you so much to everybody for being patient with me. There's just a lot going on. And so, I'm still trying to endure, trying to take it one step at a time. And so, plus on top of that, I'm working on trying to make myself better health-wise. Hell, I even have a transplant application here. So I'm going to be, doing, the most I can, because being as healthy as you possibly can and trying to be as healthy as you possibly can is a revolutionary act. It's a rebellious act. So I'm trying to be as rebellious as possible in that regard. So yeah. But like I said, happy Pride. Of course, I got my rainbow tie on. Yeah. I wore black just to make it pop. You know what I'm saying? So gonna do that. And I'm going to say hello to everybody in the chat to give my salutations. We have CBC voter coming in with the rainbow heart saying happy Sunday, Jaybe. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it so much. Sarina coming in, who is also a Revolutionary Blackout Network member. Hang on. Saying greetings, comrades. Thank you so very much. Good to see you. Angela coming in saying it looks like a good topic today. Happy Sunday. Good to see you, Angela. We have Monarch saying hello. Pride Month, for whatever reasons, motivates FBI, CIA, cop infiltrators to disguise as hate groups wearing masks to promote and spread propaganda for military state. Monarch continues. Pride Month does the opposite for actually keeping LGBTQ safe. We're going to talk about that because, yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation. We got to get into the history of Pride. Eric Gray says this convo should be amazing today. And let's not forget the fact that clowns like Governor DeSantis don't want Pride history brought up in public schools whatsoever. Mastermind Hour is giving a shout out to Angela. Good to see a Mastermind Hour. Medio Dream says, Jaybe, as a gay man who has a mental disability, this backlash against our community has been tough to watch. It makes me feel like when I was bullied in school, my PTSD is acting up in that time. Boy, I know a thing or two about being bullied. I was bullied, but the thing is that I guess because I behaved in somewhat of a masculine way, I didn't really feel any of that vitriol. For me, it was mostly my weight and things like that I was bullied for. But I do know what it's like to feel bullied. And so hopefully this will be time for you to relax and, it's kind of a tough subject. Not really to relax, but it's more of a means to feel hopeful. I hope I helped in that way. And thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for the compliment. I appreciate it. We We have Samuel coming in saying, hey, Wadi, good to see everybody's getting along. Rick Solis coming in saying, hey, y'all, good to see ya. Eric Thomas said, you said it. All right, Samuel, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you to Sweary Fairy, my bestie, coming in and also becoming a member of RBN. Thank you so many. Thank you so much. So thank you many much. Same thing. Creative Experiments is in the chat. We have Rich Sigf says, much love from upstate New York. Oh, hi. Good to see you. All right. Nice to have you. Default name says, ouch, bye. Oh, I don't know what that's about. All right. Who else? Who else are we talking to? YepX says, in my opinion, we need to stop hyper-focusing on Pride Month and shift that attention and solidarity with Indigenous peoples because it's also National Indigenous History Month. We can do both. Why not? Juneteenth's also in this month. We can do both. Anna Ringwald says, first things first. Good to see you, Anna Ringwald, as well. Just Me says, looking good, handsome. Sorry for your loss. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Jessica Mai is in the chat saying, hi, good to see you. Akikario? Is that pronounced correctly? Good afternoon. Good to see you. Let me see. David Schlesinger says, happy Sunday, comrades. Sorry for your grandmother. Thank you so much. Monarch says, morning, where and all. Good to see you. Thank you so very much as well. Ivan B. Terrible says, what's up from Switzerland? Oh, hi. Good to see you. All right. Whoa, Jessica Maya says, I keep getting YouTube ads saying LGBT plus is at a higher risk for cancer and to get screened. I went digging and saw Bill Gates' organization is trying to push some jabs. I find the advertisement suspect. Oh, well, yeah. Yeah. All right. So, what are we talking about today? This is going to be a complex topic, and this topic is, because of the month, it is everywhere, and you have really two sides to this topic. You have one side that really just wants us to go away. Motherfucker, we ain't going nowhere. And the second side is like, hey, happy Pride to you. I'm not LGBTQIA, but I support y'all and love you. So there's two different sides. And so, let's go to what is actually the topic. So it says rainbow capitalism, fake allies, real oppression. Why do I have a cop car, a rainbow colored cop car, and then you have Xfinity, Coca-Cola, Facebook, Urban Outfitters, Pfizer, ExxonMobil, YouTube? Why are they in rainbow colors? Tumblr. Why are they in rainbow colors? Well, because they're supposedly allies. Right? I can hear it in your voice too. I can hear y'all speaking through the screen. And so I played this initial video from Sylvia Rivera, who talked about the existence of pride. Let's go back over it and let's break it down, because I think this is really interesting, because she really harps on the points that pride isn't what pride used to be. So let's go again.
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Sylvia Rivera. I'm co-founder of Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, which is now Street Transgender Action Revolutionaries. And my co-founder was Marsha P. Johnson.
What about
So Marsha P. Johnson, if you don't know, was some argue that she identified as still male. Some argue that she was trans. From what it sounds like from Sylvia Rivera, she was trans. So I'm going to be referring to Marsha P. Johnson as she for the duration of my reference to her. So they started the organization STAR, and so this is she was one of the people who were there at the Stonewall riots. Marsha P. Johnson, by her admission, got there a couple of hours after the Stonewall riot. I hate calling it Stonewall riots. I prefer to call it Stonewall Rebellion, because I feel like that, especially trans and, and non-binary folk, many of us were rebelling at that time in 1969. So, but people call it a riot, what have you. But even still, that riot / rebellion, they were there in 1969. And this is deeply important to keep in mind when it comes to the history of queer history. Because it's kind of a lot to say LGBTQIA or LGBTQ over and over. So queer history. And so this is why this is deeply important. And by the way, we're in Pride Month, as you guys know. So let's continue.
what about the issues of that? There's a lot of organizations that have included T in their bill, like lesbian, gay, bi, and trans. Is it real inclusiveness, or is it just a smokescreen?
So that's one of the reasons why I put in the thumbnail those corporations that have rainbow colors. And you can just Google it. You can look at all these different organizations and look, and they're all basically supposedly making themselves look like allies. And this is years ago. Sylvia goes, yeah, nah, we ain't playing that. And so I love her response to this. Let's go.
How do you feel about this?
No, that's the bottom line. It's a big smoke screen. This movement has become so capitalist. It is a capitalist movement.
It is a capitalist movement. Look, let's be real. Remember when Fred Hampton said, we will not, I'm paraphrasing, we will not destroy capitalism with black capitalism. He said, we won't fight capitalism with black capitalism, we'll fight it with socialism. The thing is that we will not fight and defeat capitalism with rainbow capitalism. And you have a lot of people who are a lot of opportunistic right-wingers that will show up in a Target. They always choose Target for some reason. They won't choose Walmart because they know a lot of right-wingers love Walmart. But they'll go into a Target, go into a section where the kids section, where there may be some stuff with rainbows on it. And then they'll be like, oh my God, they're showing this to the kids. And it's like, okay. Rainbows have been in kids' clothing for forever. Number one. Number two, as far as LGBTQ, I mean, And so what? Why do I say that? Nobody flipped their wigs when you see a onesie with the for boys made that say "the ladies love me." You don't see anybody flipping out over that. Nobody flips out over that, right? Or how and many people have brought this up, how kids up until the age of toddler really don't have that much of a variation of size. So why are there smaller shorts and spaghetti straps for little girls, and then longer shorts and longer sleeves on shirts for boys? They're relatively the same size. You can really put a little boy's outfit on a little girl and keep it moving. It doesn't really matter. But yet we have to, categorize, right? Little girls have to show off their bodies more instead of, why not just cover them all the same, right? Or pink is for girl, blue is for boys, when back then in the 1800s, babies wore white and pink was relatively a masculine color, whereas blue was a feminine color. But see how it changed? Oh my God, men wearing dresses. You never seen a man in a sarong before? You never seen those grass skirts that indigenous men in the island nations wear? About the sarongs that indigenous African men will wear traditionally? What about what indigenous Americans wore? So what? Ultimately, and I'm going to say this repeatedly, is that this outrage is really just a means to keep us divided as workers. That's what it is. And if you're committing or if you're participating in the outrage, you might just be doing the work of the corporate dictators. Because guess what? A trans woman like Sylvia Rivera has a lot of the same concerns that you, as a cis person, a cis straight person, has as well. Public safety, healthcare, being paid a living wage, housing. We worry about different people in other countries too. So are we going to allow ourselves to be pawns of the corporate dictators to go up against our fellow workers just because they either have a different gender identity or they love a different way? Are we? So people will say, oh, this is identity politics. Baby, this is class. It always goes down to class. It always does. And capitalists need us to be divided in order for them to keep and maintain that power. And they will use, oh my God, they're going after kids while look at what's going on in the churches. Look at what's going on in many of these different organizations that are hetero. Look at how many police officers. Ask any cis female, any woman about her experiences as soon as she hit puberty, maybe even before she hit puberty, how she was targeted by grown-ass men, straight men. Go ahead. Ask how they felt, especially when they hit puberty, like 11, 12 years old, being targeted, being talked to. So it's not really the concern about queer people. It's really a method of division. Because if they were talking about truly protecting kids, they'd be going after straight men, like crazy. Sorry, it's true. But they don't. is not that much different than people complaining about, oh my God, the immigrants are taking our jobs. When in reality, it wasn't immigrants that were taking their jobs. It was the corporate oligarchs sending our jobs overseas so that they can have cheaper, so they can make more profit, so they can have cheaper labor. Or the immigrants coming in and accepting cheap labor because they're constantly being exploited. Ultimately, it's a class divide. Let's continue.
I see this movement becoming a straight gay movement.
What does she mean by there? She basically means that it's really been co-opted. Just like Black Lives Matter was co-opted, right? Now you got a lot of these people going, love is love. And the thing is, like, while that's true, y'all don't actually mean it. And by y'all, I'm talking to the liberals. Liberals don't actually mean love is love. Liberals don't actually really care about us. Some do. A few do, especially ones that are not in the upper echelons of power. But the ones that are in the upper echelons of power, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Joe Bidens, the Hakeem Jeffries, blah, 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 blah. They don't actually care about LGBTQIA people. They don't care about us. If they actually did, then a lot of policies that would actually benefit us, defund the police would actually help us. Yes, it would. Housing for all, a housing first model would definitely help us. A living wage and actually making it so that people can actually own the means of production. Oh, you don't think that would help us? Oh, hell yeah, it would help us. What else? What else? Healthcare for all would help us. It would, oh my God. I would love to be able to get my medications without cost. What about our siblings that have HIV? What about them being able to get their medications without having to worry about cost? Without having to go bankrupt? It's a class issue. What about our trans brothers and sisters who want to get gender affirmation care? Do you know how many times I see somebody who's trans that has to put up a GoFundMe or crowdfund for their surgery? By the way, these surgeries are for people over 18. So they're not doing this shit to kids. Just do your research. Anyway, so yes, they actually have to crowdfund in order to get, gender affirmation surgery instead of places that actually do it for free. Yes, there's a place that does it for free. You want to know where? Let's show. Oh, wrong one. Oh, you know what? Oops, sorry. I gotta open it. Here we go. I got it. Wrong link. That one's another one, though. We're gonna get into that. This is the National Institute of Health. It says transsexuals' right to health, a Cuban case study. That's right. We're going to Cuba, baby. It says in 2008, Cuba's Minister of Public Health signed Resolution 126, an act that assured complete coverage for Cubans seeking sexual reassignment surgeries, also known as gender confirmation surgeries, the first of any country in Latin America to do so. 10 years later, Cuba is celebrated as having one of the most open and inclusive LGBTQ public health and education programs in the Americas. As illustrated throughout this article, the Cuban state approaches sexuality and sexual identity not as right-based issues, but as health-based challenges. Through the case study of Cuba's understanding of transsexuals' right to health, we argue that Cuba has provided an example of how the right to health for all moves towards breaking down the barriers of stigma by improving health outcomes for those with transsexual health needs. Because in 2008, Cuba's Minister of Public Health, Jose Ramon Balaguer Cabrera, she signed Resolution 126, an act that assured complete coverage for Cubans seeking sexual reassignment surgery, also known as gender confirmation surgery. 10 years later, Cuba is celebrated as having one of the most open and inclusive LGBTQ, known in Cuba as sexual diversity, public health, and education programs in the Americas. This is important for two reasons. First, the resolution guaranteed publicly funded sexual reassignment surgery and complete medical care to all trans Cuban citizens under the national public health system, the first of any Latin country in America to do so. So it says publicly funded sexual reassignment surgery, meaning you got free reassignment surgery if you're trans. Sounds more progressive than the United States to me, doesn't it? Says second, Cuba has a history of anti-gay policies that systematically discriminate against and criminalize sexual diversity, which is true. Why would a country with a proven track record of discrimination become a leader in the Americas for gender and sexual diversity rights? This is because, as we argue here, the Cuban state does not view gender and sexuality as right-based issues. It approaches them as health-based challenges. For what some may see as a small distinction on terminology, Cuba's health-based approach to sexuality and sexual diversity more broadly is in fact noteworthy in terms of both the approach and the outcomes. Cuba's public insurance for sexual reassignment surgery is a result of broader social commitment to health as an intrinsic right and health care as an integral aspect of this right. Such a commitment to a rights-based approach to health is, as we argue, powerful enough to overrule historically entrenched discrimination within society. So they started this years ago. And the crazy part is people will talk about Cuba and say, well, Cuba, they're not great for LGBTQ. And that's like, in the past, they've had their transgressions. They have. Hell, even Fidel Castro apologized for that. But that's not who they are anymore. In fact, Cuba is actually more socially progressive than the United States now. And they did it without even having to consult their courts. They did it through just voting. Now, let me share this with you guys as well, because this is also very important. And this was shared by the International. There are definitely articles on this, but they're a little bit more in detail. But this is just a overview. It says this is from the International magazine. It says, Happy Pride Month. Cuba, despite the U.S. hypocritical claims to be a progressive country, the 2022 Cuban Family Code is considered to be very progressive and LGBTQ friendly. It says it was approved by the referendum on September 25th, 2022. The new code greatly strengthens gender equality. It legalizes same-sex marriage. This makes Cuba the 33rd country in the world to legalize same-sex marriage. It says it allows same-sex couples to adopt children. This makes Cuba the 20th country in the world to allow same-sex couples to adopt children. It legalizes altruistic surrogacy. This means that women can volunteer to be surrogate mothers for other couples without being compensated for their services. So you don't have to have a whole bunch of money in order to have a surrogate. It can be a class issue too. It strengthens gender equality. This new code explicitly prohibits discrimination based on gender, and it guarantees equal rights for men and women in all areas of life, including marriage, divorce, child custody, and property ownership. So, and by the way, this referendum, over 75% of Cubans voted for this, and it won with over 65% support. Or wait, was it 90%? I know it was a huge amount of Cubans voted, and then an overwhelming majority voted for it. So it was actually voted. Here in the United States, for us to have equality, we actually have to go through the courts, and those can be overturned. Hello, Roe v. Wade. So we can lose our rights like that. But this was actually voted on by the people in Cuba. That's how strong this really is. Let's go to some of the comments in the chat. Really quick. Rick Sully says child beauty pageants, Jaybe, enough said. Yeah. I eat paste. Hi, I eat paste. Good to see you. Let me see. MJ, the anti-imperialist party, says, I just don't see why we need all these separate movements. Because a lot of people become discriminated against. For instance, there's a lot of Black people that need to have movements within themselves because Black people are constantly being discriminated against. And yes, building coalitions is important. But at the same time, we also need to have our own in order to build ourselves up. And then we can have coalitions to join with other organizations. But unfortunately, because of the system that we live in, it's divided us. And the thing is that those building of coalitions unites us once again. But at the same time, there's some people that just don't understand what we go through. They just don't. Do you know what it's like to be trans? I don't. I don't know what they go through. I'm a cisgender gay guy. What do I know? And so that's important for them. It's important for us who, are LGBTQ, because we go through a lot, within this country. And there's what a lot of women go through. There's things that I don't know that women go through. And they need to, come together and, have solidarity. And then we need to have solidarity with them. There's disabled people. I'm disabled. There's a lot that we go through. Thing is that, you can have separate movements, separate organizations, but then come together as a coalition. So that's why. And by the way, everybody in the comments, please be respectful. Especially if you're attacking people, please do not. Please do not be attacking people in the comments. And by the way, anybody who says that gender reassignment surgeries are unnecessary, are you going to say the same thing for breast augmentation? Are you going to say the same thing for circumcision? Yeah. Are you going to say that? I mean, you know, we're gonna talk, you know, gender affirmation. Hell, Viagra is gender affirmation, but you don't see nobody complain and moan about that. Dear God. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. In fact, people who get these surgeries, huge majority of them, they actually report actually feeling, alleviating their depression and feeling a lot better. So, you know, and you know what, to be honest with you, I'd rather have somebody trans on to talk about that. But yeah. So yeah. And so I know a lot of people are going to be here and they're going to disagree. But yo, here's the thing. Fuck it. I'm showing it. Got to be careful with you know, the thought process. This is also, I didn't mean to do that. This is also from the National Institute of Health. It says the pink triangle, the persecution of homosexual males in concentration camps in Nazi Germany. We got to look, y'all got to be careful, man. Y'all got to be careful. It says abstract, having analyzed the fragmentary records of Nazi concentration camps, the author reports on the number and treatment of male homosexual prisoners. The total number of inmates officially defined as homosexual is estimated about 10,000, although the number incarcerated varied greatly from camp to camp as the war progressed. Pink triangle prisoners had low social status, often were isolated from other inmates, and as compared to other political prisoners and Jehovah's Witnesses, more frequently were given to the most difficult work assignments and less frequently were assigned to light duties. By the way, I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. Guess what? If I would have been in Nazi Germany, I would have been dead. Because gay and JW, yeah. They had a higher death rate and a lower survival rate upon release. Suicide rates were not significantly different from those than other inmate groups studied. Pink triangle prisoners were not subject to exceptionally cruel treatment in all camps and at all times, however, and were not the only group of prisoners subject to extreme abuse. And so we were identified. So if we as gays were identified, then transgender people were definitely identified too. So we can take a look and be like, you know, this is wrong. But the thing is like, why do you think it's wrong? Like, have you actually talked to actual people who are, you know, physicians in this field? I don't even want to get into this part of the subject, but I'm seeing people in the chat. Meteor Dream says, JB, see what I mean? As the left has gone far right. Like I said, I think there's just a lot of loud people, but they're not the majority of the left. I don't believe that. You know, maybe it's just the optimism in me, but I don't believe that. I think it's just a lot of loud people. But yeah. Tanky, what about preventative mastectomies? Are they unnecessary? Well, anywho, So let's go back to the subject at hand. And one of the things that I want to bring up as well is we're on the subject of Cuba. And yes, Cuba does have a not so great history. That's putting it lightly. But yeah. So let me enlarge this. This is from Socialist Action. It says Mariela Castro in Cuba's LGBT revolution. It says this is just released film follows Mariela Castro and Cuban LGBT activists as they travel through rural towns to engage with Cubans about the upcoming International Day Against Homophobia on May 17, 1990. They travel to the region of Matanzas, the small town of San Pablo de Yeo, and Ciego de Avila, and a farm in Sierra Maestra Mountains. And there are more recent interviews with lesbian, gay men, and transgender Cubans and their families throughout the island. The film begins and ends with the 2013 Day Against Homophobia marches, which illustrates how far the movement has become. In the beginning, the film explains that Mariela Castro is the daughter of Raul Castro and the niece of Fidel Castro, but it fails to mention more important fact that she is very much the daughter of Vilma Espin, who was a Cuban revolutionary feminist and president of the Federation of Cuban Women from 1960 until her death in 2007. Mariela likes to say that she is a Castro by accident of birth. When she is asked about the marriage equality for Cuba, she says that when her father tells her she is going too fast, she reminds him that her mother supported gay marriage in the 1980s. And so this is a good article. It's kind of a short article, but it also talks about Mariela Castro fighting for LGBTQ rights in Cuba. So that's also a really good article. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about is, there was a video that I wanted to show. I forgot. Let me take this down just so that I won't. And people, when we talk about capitalism and pride, I think this is something that we should really, get into and talk about, because police are really just the capitalists. They're just the muscle for capitalists, for the state. So I actually found this to be quite refreshing.
It's the early hours of a Sunday morning.
This video is called No Cops Allowed, The History of Pride. So this is going to be interesting, talking about how pride started and why it is crazy and dumb and stupid for cops to be at pride. And really is just propaganda. Hang on, sorry. Excuse me. So let's go.
It's the early hours of a Sunday morning in December 1890. According to later newspaper reports, a person who police officers view as male is arrested on Kearny Street in San Francisco. This person's crime? Being clad in a complete woman's outfit. When arrested, this person, who today would likely be accepted as a transgender woman, gives her name as Betty Portel and is hit with the maximum sentence, 6 months in jail for wearing women's clothing in public.
So my question is this what you want things to go to? the police arresting us just for expressing our right to, free speech and wearing what we want to wear as human beings. Let's continue.
Part 1. The History of Pride. In San Francisco in 1863, as part of a anti-indecency campaign, the city adopted a law that criminalized a person appearing in dress not belonging to his or her sex. This law remained in effect for 111 years. It's August 1966. San Franciscan trans women, drag queens, and transvestites had been hanging out at Compton Cafeteria for years. But recently, Compton Cafe staff had begun harassing their trans patrons and calling the police on them due to concerns from management that trans patrons are causing them to lose more desirable business. This has led to a rise in arrests of trans women under anti-cross-dressing laws. The night of the Compton Cafeteria riot is one such night. The police arrive and an officer grabs
one of the queens, and she threw her coffee in his face.
Someone had thrown coffee in his face, and there was tables turned over.
Compton's erupted. People started throwing everything they could get their hands on at the police.
All of the sugar shakers went through the windows and the glass doors. I think I put a sugar shaker through one of those windows.
The hustlers kicked the police and punched them, and the drag queens beat them with their heavy purses. The cops retreated outside.
Beat him up! Beat him up! Take that heavy purse and mollywop him. Go ahead, girl. Sorry, I just had to comment on that.
Beat them with their heavy purses. The cops retreated outside to call for backup, but cafeteria customers, maybe 60 in all, poured into the streets through the broken doors and windows and kept fighting as the paddy wagons pulled up. Before it was over, a police car was destroyed, the corner newsstand was set on fire, and years of pent-up resentment boiled out into the night. It was the first known instance of collective, militant, queer resistance to police harassment in United States history.
It's June 28th, 1969 in the USA. For years, police raids on gay bars have been conducted frequently, and arrests are made based on laws against cross-dressing and against homosexual sexual conduct. Those hardest hit are transgender people, butch lesbians, effeminate gay men, and drag queens.
So, like they said, police, who are the arm of the state, are constantly harassing people in my community. Constantly. For just existing. That's not a class issue? Come on, man. Arms of the state coming up against you?
In the early morning hours around 1 a.m., police officers raid the Stonewall Inn in New York City. Standard procedure is to line up the patrons, check their identification, and have female police officers take customers dressed as women to the bathroom to verify their sex, upon which any people appearing to be physically male are arrested. Butch lesbians and trans men are patted down by male police officers, and if judged to be female, suffer the same fate. This night, though, things are different. After decades of arrests and harassment, queer folk are fed up. Those who are not arrested are let outside, but this night, instead of going home as usual, these other patrons gather around the outside of the bar, refusing to leave. A butch lesbian, identified by eyewitnesses later as Stormy Delaveri, is handcuffed for wearing men's clothing and is escorted to a waiting police wagon. She tries to escape, and a police officer hits her on the head with a baton. Dazed and angry, she yells out at the crowd, "Why don't you guys do something?" as an officer grabs her and heaves her into the back of the wagon. The crowd erupts. Coins, rocks, and beer bottles are thrown at the cops, and the tires on the police wagons are slashed. The officers barricade themselves inside the Stonewall Inn and call for reinforcements. The New York City Tactical Patrol Force respond and arrive to free the police trapped inside the Stonewall Inn. The skirmish transforms into a full-blown riot, and people are injured on both sides. By 4 a.m., the streets are quiet once again, but not for long.
So when police show up to Pride, it is that's like an arsonist coming up dressed as a firefighter to try to put out the fire. Like, really? Come on. Like, nah. You guys have been oppressing us over and over. That's like a black liberation, march, and a bunch of police show up to express solidarity. When y'all were bashing our heads in years ago? Come on now.
News of the riots spreads, and the next night, thousands of people gather outside the Stonewall Inn, including hundreds of police officers. A second riot breaks out. Gay and trans rights activist Marsha P. Johnson climbs up a lamppost and drops a bag with a brick in it down on a police car, shattering the windshield. The riot carries on for hours and makes news headlines around the state. 1 year later, in New York, San Francisco, and LA, the first ever Pride marches are held in commemoration of the Stonewall riots. And
while we're talking about it, if somebody who's trans can't get a job, even if they're professionally dressed, that's also part of the class issue. Because you can't be who you truly are, even if you do it in a professional way. Just saying. That's a class issue, man.
the US, Pride marches continue to be held on this anniversary of LGBT+ folks fighting back against police violence. Homosexuality remains illegal in many states under state sodomy laws for years to come. It's 1982, USA. A 29-year-old bartender in Atlanta, Georgia is arrested for engaging in oral sex with another man in his own home. He contends his case and it reaches all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. The court dismisses his contention and his arrest is deemed legal. He is sent to prison for more than 12 months for going down on a consenting adult man in the privacy of his own home. As some queers decided that we don't like cops, it's because the spirit of Pride itself is about fighting back against the arm of force and state-legitimized violence of the legal system called the police. Now police stations have rainbow liaisons and commitments to diversity and rainbow police cars. Welcome to New Zealand, where up until a few years ago, many men still had a criminal record of homosexuality that could be divulged to employers. But the cops have rainbows on their cars now, so everything's fine, right? Right? No, that's not how that works. But that was before my time. We got rid of those laws. It's different now. People who are directly affected by those laws are still very much alive and still very much going to Pride. And do you think from the bottom of your soul that there's no more discriminatory laws that cops uphold? Whew, I could write a novel about how the legal system and the institution of policing harms poor and low-income and unhoused people wildly disproportionately to wealthy people.
And it includes people who are queer. That's what it does. It includes us. So, like I said, it is better to unite with us and fight against the corporate dictators than to keep this division going. Because this division is what's hurting us. A man in a lace front wig and a sequin skirt is not your problem. Capitalism is your problem. That person that's twirling a baton, in a leotard, in a pride parade, got to work at, Macy's at the makeup desk and for starvation wage? Wouldn't it be better to team up with that guy that works at the makeup desk that does drag shows on the weekends at the clubs, and maybe, just maybe, actually form unions or create a worker co-op so that you guys won't have to worry about getting starvation wages? Maybe, just maybe, we can actually push for something that doesn't oppress all of us collectively under these corporate dictators. Just because he's femme and wears lipstick is not going to hurt you. What's hurting you is Vanguard, BlackRock, Amazon, ExxonMobil, Raytheon. Those are the people who we should be going up against. The U.S. military are the groomers. These are the people we need to actually fight up against. Somebody getting gender reassignment surgery is not your issue. Like, good God, let's get a grip. When we talk about worker solidarity, are you saying all workers except queer workers? Come on now. Come on. Are we actually going to be that way? Hell, Fidel Castro realized the error of his ways. He realized it. He apologized. Why can't you? Like, holy shit. Let me continue.
But that's a video for another time. If you're a police officer and you want to come to Pride, take the day off. Take off your uniform and come in mufti. Mufti is
more like quit and then come to Pride. Get a job doing something else. Hell, become a firefighter or become an EMT, paramedic. Stay away from police.
Is plain clothes for all my US friends. If you're a cop and you insist on marching in the parade in police uniform, think about why that's important to you. It's my opinion that that is disrespectful to the memory of Pride and to the memory of all those people of gender and sexual minorities who have suffered harms at the hands of the justice system. And why do you think, after years of police upholding often violently racist and homophobic and transphobic laws, that would welcome them with open arms? Our communities are healing, and having those who represent the institutions that dealt out this abuse to the communities try to weasel their way into a march that literally commemorates an instance of such police violence is unacceptable. I personally don't have beef with any individual police officer. I do think it's insulting and ahistorical for cops in uniform to attend Pride celebrations as representatives of the institution of policing. The cops who insist on inserting themselves into Pride against the wishes of the majority of people in rainbow communities are, by that very insistence, proving that they are not our allies.
Corporations are not our allies. Capitalism is really just donning rainbows as a way to make it seem like, oh, well, we can sell to you. Your money's good with us, when in reality, they're still oppressing. What about the people who are in other countries who are working in sweatshops that are queer, who are also being oppressed by these same corporations? They don't care about us. They don't. They never have, and they never will. So when people talk about, oh, but, this corporation's dedicated to LGBTQ people, no, they're not. Maybe if it's a small business, the business owner, is dedicated, but these corporations, no. Harlan Crow, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, the people who run Apple, they're not dedicated to, solidarity with us. No. It's what's popular. You know what was popular in Germany in the 1930s? Nazism. You know who was down with Nazis? Hugo Boss, Mercedes-Benz, BMW. It was because they're capitalists, man. They're going to be down with whatever's most popular at that point in time socially. Great experience, you're right. Tim Cook doesn't care about us. I'm going to address something. And I do apologize to my fellow RBN members, but I'm going to have to address this because I think it bears talking about. I actually wasn't going to talk about this, but I think it needs to be. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. Now, I've never met this person, but they seem to have a large following. And I think this will do more harm than good. This is from Infrared. It says, live now explaining why Marxism Gorky was right, why LGBT serves imperialism has nothing to do with Marxism Leninism, why LGBT liberation is debating on whether or not LGBT liberation is compatible with communism. Thing is that the implication that LGBT people or the movement serves imperialism, it is co-opted by imperialists. It does not serve imperialism. And this is the same type of rhetoric that people will say, well, nah, colonialism brought, homosexuality to us, which is patently false. Queerness and transgender, homosexuality, bisexuality, all these things, they've existed since the beginning of human existence. Go talk to indigenous people, right? Go do your research when it comes to, African cultures and in Asian cultures, how his existence since the beginning of time. Colonialism, however, has been pushing, heteronormativity since it started 500-600 years ago. So I have something I want to share with you guys because some people just need a little education. And I'm talking to Black people because some of y'all, do not have solidarity with your Black, trans, and gay, siblings. And if we're going to talk about all Black lives mattering, we got to talk about all Black lives. Let's go.
When will we stop acting like homosexuality was praised in Africa before invaders came? Because it was not. If it came out that you were committing homosexual acts, you were either killed or exiled. The rise of homosexuality started with Arab traders coming into Africa. In Uganda, they called them Akulia Ebiziagi. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But anyway, homosexuality in Africa was also associated with the rise of prisons, which was a result of European colonialism. Before colonizers came, prison was not a thing in Africa. In Africa, the focus was regularly good relations. It always confused me how European boy lovers brought homophobia to Africa. We talking about the same people who took our men to butt breaking camps because they said that was the only way they could get a man to submit to them. which is very homosexual. We got to stop this BS and look at the history before Arab traders and European colonizers came. Otherwise, of course, you will run into the love of homosexuality.
Research over me search. Prior to European colonization, throughout the African continent, we see far different, more relaxed attitudes towards sexual orientation and gender identity. As far back as 2400 BC, 2400 BC. Before European and Arab invasion, colonialization, all that right there. As far back as 2400 BC, tombs have been excavated in ancient Egypt with two men's bodies embracing each other as lovers. In addition to their acceptance of the same-sex relationship, ancient Egyptians, similar to other civilizations at the time, not only acknowledged a third gender, but venerated. Oh, but they're going to say, man, you only talking about Egypt though, huh? I ain't talking about them Egyptologists. I got you. Facts over feelings in this book called Male Daughters and Female Husbands about gender and sex in African society. You know, it's talking about some things. When you dig deep, you'll see that female husbandry is one of the oldest queer practices found in over 40 cultures in Africa, in both ancient and contemporary Africa, which is
This motherfucker said Egypt isn't black. All right, you can go ahead and leave. Go ahead. Bye. Deuces.
wealthy and powerful and influential women who married other women. During the pre-colonial times among the Langi people of northern Uganda, effeminate males known as Mudako Dako were treated as women and could marry men. Pre-colonial times. In the Nubeli and the Shano tribe in Zimbabwe, Nupe in Nigeria, Azande in Sudan and Congo, Tutsi in Rwanda and Burundi, it is believed that same-sex acts possess spiritual benefits. Androgyny. In Egypt, goddesses such as Mut, goddess of motherhood, and Segment, goddess of war, are often depicted as women with penises. In a whole bunch of countries in Africa, like Angola and Namibia, and a whole bunch of countries I can't pronounce, a caste of male diviners are believed to carry a powerful female spirit they would pass on to fellow male through intimate relations. Let's leave these folks alone and stop trying to use Hotepian Hebrew type ideology to try to push them out. I could keep on going on about male daughters and everything like this, but it just shows how some people be so lost in the sauce and European constructs, and you be thinking that you really woke and you put people on game, but you're really not. And I'll take on a debate any day too. Let me know. I got time.
I need him back on. Because in 2021, wait, was it 2021? Yeah, he was on here with me, consciously. I'm gonna get him back on. But yeah, so the thing is that, you know, saying that it is, you know, imperialistic, giving that certain type of, rhetoric that, you know, it has to deal with imperialism and it's not compatible with communism. Nah, man, nah, no. Now, is it being co-opted? Yeah, just like a lot of look, Nancy Pelosi kneeled in kente cloth. Right? Black culture has been co-opted in many ways to, benefit capitalism. You know what I'm saying? Are you going to say black people are imperialist? Nah. So my thing is that, we have to walk away from, demonizing people of marginalized groups, because it's popular. We can't do that. We cannot sit here and demonize people who are marginalized, because the people who are marginalized because of the system that we live in. And so I think this is very important that we, get this right. And the thing is that they are not our enemy, right? Just like Muslims are not our enemy. Immigrants are not our enemy. Women are not our enemy. Black people are not our enemy. Queer, LGBTQIA people are not our enemy. And in fact, we can build coalitions and actually fight against our true enemy, the corporate dictators, the capitalists, who are actually making our lives worse. I think this is something that we really need to come to terms with. And those of us on the left, we need to look at deep within ourselves and go, why do I dislike these people? Or why do I have an aversion to them? There was another there is a article that I also want to show you guys. We're going to talk about policing. This is a article. It's called Law Enforcement Violence Against Women of Color, Against Trans People of Color, a critical intersection of gender violence and state violence. Because a lot of people will go up against, especially Black trans women, which they get a lot of heat. And so let me go to the part that let me see. Is it this? This is a great resource here, by the way. So it goes first under policing gender. It says law enforcement agencies not only enforce systemic power relations based on race and class through racial profiling, race-based policing, and targeting of low-income communities of color, they also police gender lines, enforcing dominant racialized gender norms. Yet the gendered aspects and manifestations of law enforcement violence are often invisible in organizing and advocacy around both police brutality and gender-based violence. Sometimes police enforcement of the gender binary. The idea that there are only two genders, male and female, each of which is characterized by specific conduct and appearance, is obvious. For instance, until just a few decades ago, cops used to enforce what are known as sumptuary laws, which require individuals to wear gender-appropriate clothing and subject to people to arrest for impersonating another gender. Today, such regulations remain in effect in prisons and are enforced through disciplinary infractions and punitive segregation. These regulations still inform law enforcement conduct. For instance, New York City Police Department's current arrest paperwork still has a box checked for impersonating a female. Additionally, requests for identification, which may not match a person's gender identity, often lead to police presumptions that transgender people are fraudulent, deceitful, or inherently suspicious. This can in turn lead to verbal abuse, harassment, and physical abuse. Law enforcement officers also regularly subject trans and gender nonconforming people to invasive and abusive searches to satisfy their curiosity, humiliate, or to involuntarily assign a gender based on genital status. And these two blurbs says, an African-American transgender woman arrested by LAPD, taken to the county jail, reported, quote, the officers wanted to see my chest. They wanted to see if I had breasts or not, end quote. They reportedly came into her cell and instructed her to remove her shirt. After she complied, they left. Next one says a transgender man was arrested during the political protest in San Francisco. He showed the officers the driver's license that identified him as legally male and was placed in a holding pen with other male detainees. The officers got curious about the activist's gender status, came to the cell, and reportedly pushed him around, dragged him out, and belligerently accused him of having a fraudulent identification card. A second officer asked him if he had a penis and groped his crotch and chest to verify his gender. So this is what police do. And this is why, we really need to, rethink public safety, because police do not do anything but harass people, especially, people who are just workers within this capitalist system. So that also is also in the description as well. And let's talk about housing, right? Housing also is a big thing that we really need to talk about. This is out of the Trevor Project. It says homelessness and housing instability among LGBTQ youth. It says 28% of LGBTQ youth reported experiencing homelessness or housing instability at some point in their lives. And those who did had 2 or 4 times the odds of reporting depression, anxiety, self-harm, considering suicide and attempting suicide compared to those with stable housing. So it says LGBTQ youth are overrepresented among young people experiencing homelessness and housing instability in the United States. This elevated risk of homelessness and housing instability has detrimental effects on LGBTQ youth mental health. So if we're going to talk about housing for all, these are some of the people that would actually benefit from housing for all. It's a class issue. It keeps going back to that. You know, when we talk about people who are being discriminated against at work, it's an employee issue. Like, look, if you're constantly being discriminated at work for you being just who you are, then guess what? It becomes a class issue. Oh my gosh. Story Fairy says, like the Salvation Army forcing trans women to freeze to death. Exactly. You know, and so if we're going to talk about, you know, class issues, let's talk about them. Let's talk about the class issues that are facing, you know, many people who are part of this community. Look, this, you know, as the only queer person on RBN, I feel it's my duty to talk about these things. To talk about the intersection of gender identity, sexual orientation, and class. It's not going to be popular. In fact, half the people probably in the chat probably hate my guts right now. You probably do. You probably think that this topic is completely unnecessary. But as somebody that's a socialist, damn near communist, I feel this deeply important. And by the way, this subject is constantly co-opted by Democrats and liberals. Constantly co-opted without actually caring for us. They don't care about us. Just like black people know that the Democrats and the liberals don't care about us, guess what? They don't care about us queer people either. And when I talk about them, I'm not talking about the, you know, just the average voter. I'm talking about the people at the top. I'm talking about the people like the Nancy Pelosi's and the Hakeem Jeffries and the Chuck Schumers. That's what I'm talking about. They really don't care. They may say that they care, but when it comes to their actual policies, they don't care. Right? And it goes all the way up to people like Joe Biden. You know Joe Biden don't care. And I think that is something that, I mean, it's kind of like duh. But yeah, Joe Biden doesn't care. And he will never care. And he'll say, oh, but, you know, love is love. And, you know, you guys shouldn't be discriminated against. You guys shouldn't be, you know, discriminated against just because of who you love. Joe Biden doesn't really believe that. And some people will go, well, you know, he's evolved over the years. A leopard doesn't change his spots. Not this leopard. No. Here he was back in 2006 on Meet the Press.
Yesterday and tomorrow in the Rose Garden to talk about a constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage.
You know, think about this. The world's going to Hades in a handbasket. We are desperately concerned about the circumstance relating to avian flu. We don't have enough vaccines. We don't have enough police officers. And we're going to debate the next 3 weeks, I'm told, gay marriage, a flag amendment, and God only knows what else. I can't believe the American people can't see through this. We already have a law, the Defense of Marriage Act, where we've all voted, not where I voted and others said, look, marriage is between a man and a woman, and states must respect that. Nobody's violated that law. There's been no challenge to that law. Why do we need a constitutional amendment? Marriage is between a man and a woman. What's the game going on here?
So that's Joe Biden. So, yeah, I mean, we have to be very careful because there are people who are disenfranchised in this country. And if we're making them out to be the enemy, who are just trying to live their lives, who are we taking sides with? Got to ask that question. You know, we got to be careful. Thanks for the super chat. John Tibby says, kilted men. Oh, yeah. In Scotland, they wear kilts. Nobody says a thing. Nobody says a word about kilts. And go ahead and say something about kilts in Scotland. A Scottish man will have something to say to you about it. Media Dream says, I read this already. Media Dream says, JB, there are so-called communist leaders that were abusing their cult members and they aren't called groomer. Yeah, I don't know the entire story about that, so I'm not going to comment on it. But thank you very much for the super chat. Reality Revolution says, I'm late, but I made it. Good to see you, Reality Revolution. Nice to have you. Social Emotional Learning with Dr. Donnie says, the military are the groomers. Yes, baby. Thank you very much, by the way. Media Dream says, Has, Maupin, and Hinkle are a cancer to the left, JB. There's some problematic views there. Definitely, I'll say that. Deconstructing Topic says, I agree. The corporations and the politicians confiscated the pride community to silence other communities. These corporations are not pro-pride as they claim. Yeah. Deconstructing Topics continue says, good episode. I have conservative values, but I always understood the struggle of pride. I also agree that the LGBT plus movement has been co-opted by Dems. Yeah. I really have no love for Dems. Because the thing is that if they actually cared, they will actually enact concrete policies that will actually benefit us. But they don't. It's all rhetoric. It's all love is love. I'm like, we know that. What are you going to do about it? You know? It's always just for the benefit of their overlords, the profit overlords. So let me go to The Rock, and then I'll go to the rest of the chat. I was nervous about talking about this today. I'm going to be honest with you. Because I know this can be very controversial. But somebody like CJ would be like, do it! Talk about it! CJ's like, you have to have those hard conversations. And I'm like, okay, CJ, okay. CJ would have been like, do it. Shout out to you, CJ. Dave Burt says, hello, RBN. Good to see you, Dave. Dave Burt says, best wishes to JB and the whole RBN crew. Thank you. Roger Meadow. Oh, wait, let me enlarge this just to enlarge it. Make it bigger. Thanks for the tip, Roger. Roger says, that's great. Now you can get them to stop being so racist towards black Afro-Cubans that can seal the deal. You being in Florida, I know you've seen how they act towards us when they get here. Also, referring to completely different subject regarding BLM, let's not forget the original founders of BLM were gotten out of the way first before bringing in the so-called leaders we know today, co-opted from the start. That's Roger. There's some people who were part of BLM originally that are no longer with us. that were the actual leaders of the movement. There's some stories out there. Boy, I'm telling you, this system is horrible. Gene Choir B. Whitworth says, profit over principles equals profit over people. Thank you. Roger continues, says, women at Brewster's Place. I remember the old lady who was bigoted towards those two lesbians. One time she was saying at a tenant meeting, describing being disgusted about seeing them have sex with them sweating all over themselves. I was like, that was a lot of detail that requires a long period of time to observe. Yeah. I was like, she really discussed it. Also, what grade do you think we should teach this? Oh, that's a difficult thing. Roger, why do you hit me with that question? See, that's the problem. See, here's the thing. If you're going to allow, I'll put it this way, a teacher, a female teacher to talk about her male teacher, that's her husband, or to have a picture of her husband. I mean, you got to be fair. If you're not going to allow, like, for instance, let's say I'm a teacher and I have a picture of my boyfriend with me, and let's say we get married, right? And there's a picture of us at our wedding. If I can't have it, then let's say Sabby and her husband, she's a teacher and she has her husband, it wouldn't be fair for her. It wouldn't be fair. I say, look, you got to make it fair. You know, you can't have, one rule set for one group and another rule set for another group. So if a cis hetero person can have their spouse or even refer to their spouse and not receive any type of vitriol or punishment from it, then I shouldn't have to face any punishment or vitriol from it either. I mean, that's just logical. You know what I mean? This is an interesting. Thank you for this article, Roger. Roger says why Americans are skipping college. Oh, that's thank you very much for that. Maybe I can talk about it on another show. But thank you so much for that link, Roger. Appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. As far as what we're worried about, let me see. Yeah. Deplorable Kulak says house prices went up twice as much as after they printed all that money. Yeah, we need to worry about house prices. But that's something that I think that is appropriate thing to be worried about. Housing prices. There was, you have people like Bill Gates that are buying up all the farmland in the country. Farmers are being displaced. Black farmers, especially. Roger, we were talking about that earlier. And so there's a lot to consider. Deplorable Kulak, I hate to break it to you, but Donald Trump is no different than Joe Biden. Democrat, Republican, same thing. Sorry. I hate to break it to you, but the duopoly, they both serve the same masters. A good resource. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of the site. What's it called again? Open Secrets. OpenSecrets.org. I implore you to go to OpenSecrets.org and just look at any Republican, any Democrat. You will see that they get the same money from the same people. So yeah. GOP, Republicans, they don't give a shit about us. They make it known, but even though they're overt, whereas the Democratic Party is covert. Let me see. Deplorable. Kulak says, why is the Biden family getting millions of dollars directly put into their accounts from overseas players? Because they're corrupt. Yeah. They're corrupt. Look, here's the thing. I'm not sure if you met me before. Hi. But the GOP and the Democrats, Trump's, Biden's, all corrupt. All corrupt. Every single last one of them. Yeah. Welcome to RBN. They're all corrupt. They all deserve to be incarcerated. Yeah. So that's why. Anyways, welcome. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm trying to think. There was I think there was one more thing that I needed to bring up. Oh, by the way. And I know, some of you are going to continuously have your disagreements with me, but there's a particular person that I think will be great education for you guys to look up. His name is Michael Valentine. He's on TikTok. He is a biologist. He is a biologist, and he talks about these things. And he's also a communist and a biologist. I recommend Micah Valentine on TikTok. Just peruse through his videos. I'm not going to play them for you here because, I could, but, I rather you guys go for yourself and look at it for yourself, because I can play it for you, but I don't know. I think I'll put the onus on you guys to research for yourself and look at that. So that's what I say. Micah Valentine, great guy, great comrade, and is also an actual biologist. So go ahead and look him up. Now, one of the things that I also want to do is that we talk a lot about the problems, right? But I'm going to bring up a solution, right? A lot of queer people, particularly a lot of trans people, are going through it, especially in the state of Florida, where I live. Yes, I live in the state of Florida. Two different organizations. I forgot the one LGBTQ organization, but they're telling LGBTQ people to stay away from Florida. Unfortunately, I live here. And then on top of that, there's also telling Black people, the NAACP is telling Black people to not come to Florida. And I'm Black and I live in Florida. So with that being said, it is becoming very dicey for a lot of people. I have a trans friend. I actually have a couple trans friends, but one of my trans friends lives here in Florida. He is, going through it, especially, as far as his HRT medications. So it's tough for him. It's tough for a lot of people in this state. So, and I'll get that to you, Wardy. Hell, I'll probably just show you guys the video and then put the link in the chat. But before I get to that, I want to share this with you guys because we're always talking about mutual aid. And this is from a mutual aid organization. This is a trans safety fund, and they're raising money for trans people. And this is from Central Florida Mutual Aid Organization. And they are having a safety fund for people who are trans to help them with housing, medication, things like that. This is definitely deeply important. This is similar in the same vein as to Strive Pensacola. Strive Pensacola is a organization that actually have been on here for the Anti-Imperialist Summit. They are a socialist organization that focuses on trans people and LGBTQ people in housing. So, so if you guys would like to help people out as far as mutual aid, this is a great resource to go to. It's the Trans Safety Fund, formulated by Central Florida Mutual Aid. So I think this is very important because a lot of trans people are actually going through a lot. So let me get this, because I think let me see. I have a lot of okay. Let's go here.
Oh, dog, I love.
Let me see. So I'm going to share this, and then once I get to it, I'm going to share it on here. And then I'll also share the link so that you guys have the link to him as well. So let me do this really quick. It's not a long video, though. That's the good part. Let me see. I wasn't going to talk about this, but you know what I hate about technology is that technology goes way slower than what I want it to. But it's okay. That's not what. Wait. Here we go. Okay. All right. So let's go here. All right. Let me see. All right. So let me. One of his is literally one of his most popular videos. Let me see. Let me grab it. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to share this with you guys, and then I'm also going to link it in the chat. But here's what he says. He's a biologist. Come on. Hold on. Oop. Let me do.
Oh, there are only two genders. It's just basic biology. Hi, how you doing? Welcome to Advanced Biology from a biologist. You see that thing? So we're gonna go over some facts together. But first off, happy Trans Day of Visibility, right? So sex and gender, not the same thing. You probably heard that before, right? It's because it's true, because biology actually has nothing to say about gender. You would have to look towards sociologists, anthropologists, or gender scientists for that. And that's why when you defer to your basic biology 101 class that you failed in high school, you look like you don't know what you're talking about, right? Gender is only loosely related to sex insofar as we've identified certain physical characteristics and have arbitrarily decided that this person belongs to this gender. But there are a whole bunch of people from that gender that don't have those physical characteristics, right? It's almost like there's some variation to sex. And that's because it's not a binary, it's a bimodal distribution where you have two extreme ends and most people falling somewhere in the middle. Now, this could be due to your genetic predisposition. It could be due to the fact that there are more than two combinations of sex chromosomes. It could be due to the intersex spectrum, but it's mostly due to hormone washes. And it's the reason why every person assigned male at birth isn't 7 feet tall with a raging beard and a hairy ass. In fact, there is more variation within a sex than there is between male and female. And by the way, you could be intersex. You could go your whole life being intersex and never know it. And the reason to that is because when you're born, nobody tests you. The doctor just decides what you look like and assigns you a sex. And then society then assigns you a gender that is traditionally associated with that sex. I really hate when people appeal to nature when they're trying to erase trans or gay people, because when you actually study the animal kingdom, the concepts of male and female cease to function as we understand them. When you're talking about creatures that have vastly different sexual dimorphism than us, species that can flip-flop sexes or produce both gametes or reproduce asexually, animals that have gay relationships. No, this isn't a rewrite of history or science. You just weren't paying attention in class. Let's talk about gender. It's a social thing, right? You got these roles and responsibilities that you assign to a specific group. Now, hear me out. Not only has the concept of a man and a woman changed within our culture over the course of hundreds of years, not only are these characteristics and the amount of genders different between cultures, not only has the concept of gender identity changed since the beginning of civilization, but between two individuals is a different concept of that gender identity. What it means to be a man for me is likely vastly different for what it means to be a man for you. It's almost like none of this has anything to do with the chromosomes you have. Trans people don't just feel like a man or a woman, they are a man or a woman, or neither, or both. And dysphoria comes from the fact that we've applied physical characteristics to social categories. And the real mental illness is thinking that 8 billion people can all fit into two arbitrary classifications. And no, nobody's turning your kids trans. Nobody would have anything to transition from if you didn't apply something to them that they don't identify with. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Oh, there are only two genders. It's just basic biology.
So yeah, he also answers more. But yeah, so I shared it in the chat as well. He's an actual biologist, and he actually shows him, you know, TikToks of him actually working in the lab. So, you know, yeah, I'm gonna listen to the biologists on this one. So yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for everybody for tuning in. This was, it was a tough subject to get through, but I think it's important that we realize that, you know, the more we think that divides us is actually, we're actually more united than we realize. And I think that we need to get ourselves to a point where we realize that our enemy is not each other. Our enemy is actually the capitalist class, the oppressor class, the vultures, the parasites that basically feed off of us and keep us divided as people. I think that's what we really need to get towards. We need to come to a point where we unify and actually, you know, take, our cues from a lot of different revolutions around the world and come together and take care of each other, you know, because they're making it so that we are constantly we're constantly denied our, rights to, health, food, education, housing, and we cannot stand for it any longer. And we just do not want to continue to keep this division up. And the thing is that, look, trans people are going to exist and continue to exist. Trans people are natural occurring human beings. Gay people are naturally occurring human beings. It exists in nature, so therefore it is natural, right? Therefore, people who are trans, non-binary, they're going to naturally just occur. They're going to be here. They've been here since the beginning of time. They're going to be here till the end of time. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that, you know, we should acknowledge. Athos perfectly said, all people deserve respect. And thank you so much. So, anywho, thanks to everybody for watching. If you guys have not, you guys can subscribe to our Substack. Go to revolutionaryblackout.substack.com so you guys can get email notifications as well. And you guys, if you guys have not, we also do fundraising for our graphics designer, Erin. Erin, she does amazing work, and thank you so very much to Erin for all the work that she does, as well as doing our clips too. She does a lot of work. So thank you so much. Go to Venmo at Revolutionary Blackout, or Cash App $Mutual Aid forever, because we love the kiddies. Yeah. All right. And if you guys would like to, you guys can also go to my channel. I also talk about many different subjects like this as well. And if you guys would like to, you guys can just go and subscribe if you feel so inclined. If if you haven't been ready to take me out, so to speak, and you guys are like, oh well, he's kind of cool. I may disagree, but he's kind of cool. Then yeah, there's, you know, my channel. I just put it in the chat as well. So yeah, thank you so much to everybody. Oh, and who am I having on? Wait, I gotta check. Who am I having on this Tuesday on my channel? Good Lord. I gotta get it together, y'all. Oh, Kamal Franklin from Black Power Media is going to be joining me on my channel this Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm going to be excited. We're going to have a great conversation. So yeah. Roger Meadow says, Aaron, do one of RBN as Fantastic Four and Rome as Duke. What? What? I mean, what would I be though? I wonder, what would I be as a Marvel character? Now, go ahead and tell me what I'd be as a Marvel character. I don't know. I'm kind of curious about that. Oh, by the way, Waddy, did you get you got the link, right? I'll put it in for him again. Copy. This is the link to his page, Michael Valentine. There you guys go. Anyway, so yeah, thank you guys so much. Wait, did you put in another? Okay, no, just checking. Oh, D-Fresh to the Hulk Jaybe because you're smart. Thank you so much. Oh no, I wouldn't be Captain America. I wouldn't represent this country. You ain't putting no stars and stripes on my happy ass. No. Nah. Anywho's, so yeah, we're about to go. And look, like I always tell everybody, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. And solidarity with people who may be different from you, that are just trying to live their lives. The solidarity with people who aren't, you know, they aren't the bad, evil people that some make them out to be. What we really are just human beings of various different forms that would like to just live our lives in peace. And that's pretty much all it is. The gay agenda is just to live our lives fully as we are and in peace. That's it. That's all. Anyway. Oh, forehead kisses. I know all of y'all are waiting for it. Y'all are waiting for it. And be gay, do crimes.